All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Highlander Newsroom. My name is Jonathan Fernandez. I am your host and the EIC of the Highlander newspaper. And today at the table we have
Evan Ismail, managing editor.
I'm Laura Anaya. I'm the special events director for ASPB, and I'm also the assistant news editor at the Highlander.
And today we also have two special guests. We have Benjamin Eisenstein and Marcus Van Vliet in studio to discuss the reopening of the barn. Eisenstein is the strategy marketer and communications manager of UCR's housing, dining, and hospitality services, and Van Vliet is the director of the barn and retail dining. So the first question I have for both of you, I just read off your job titles. So basically, how have you guys been involved with the reopening of the barn?
Obviously, it's in my title, director of the barn and retail dining. So
Yeah.
I oversee pretty much all food and beverage operations and the entertainment component in the barn. So we've been working diligently for the past year and a half on this project, and it's getting really close to coming to fruition, and we're excited about the grand opening.
Yeah, so whereas Marcus is involved at kind of all the nuts and bolts operation, really everything with the barn, being the director, myself on the marketing end, I kind of look at it, it's really about anything that's guest facing. So that could be anything from menu boards to the social media aspect to our website. So anything that is sort of front of the house that guests, meaning students, faculty, staff, and the community will see when they walk into the barn or when they're researching the barn, I'm sort of involved with that. So that goes for public relations as well. So, reaching out to people like the Highlander. Thank you very much for covering the status of the barn, things such as this.
Yeah, of course. I know we interviewed you this past week for the article that's coming out. You guys, I believe it was Marcus that said there's no planned set date for the grand opening or soft opening. What's the time frame for it, though?
So we're hoping to open sometime in early March. We're still working through the final details with the construction team, and we're putting together a calendar. I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks we can start kind of finalizing dates, but still not firm yet, but we're pretty confident that we're going to open sometime in early March.
Do you guys have set hours or?
So that's a good topic to bring up. And, one of the messages that Ben has been working on is we want everyone to know this isn't our barn, this is your barn. So students, faculty, and staff are going to dictate to us what the hours are. But to start out, we benchmarked around campus. So traditional barn dining, the barn itself will be open from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. on normal operation. When we have concerts, it'll probably be open later to match whatever the concert times are. The faculty and staff lounge will be open, or what we're calling the stable, will be open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. But as we said earlier, this is your barn, this is your faculty and staff lounge. So if there's a demand to change hours, to extend them, to tweak them a little bit, we're more than willing to listen and take that into account when we adjust our hours.
And there's a few ways to let us know. And so the most important way really is just going to be showing up. So it's going to be foot traffic. And if we notice there's a lot of people lingering at a time where we're trying to close, but hey, there's so many people having fun out here in the courtyard or whatever it may be, it's like, well, we should probably keep our hours open a little bit later than that. And then the other ways are just, feedback directly, through contacting us through our website, email, phone calls, and then of course, social media as well. Let us know what you think. And if our hours are too restrictive to begin with, we are counting on the campus community to let us know that.
Over email, you also mentioned that some of the barn, it's also part of sustainability initiatives. Can you tell me more about those?
Yeah, so we have a big focus on sustainability, not only just at the barn, but in dining overall on the campus. So a couple of things that we are putting into motion for the barn is we're going to have a dine-in option. And what we mean by that is if you come to the barn and you're going to eat at the barn, we're going to have reusable dinnerware there that we'll take back, we'll wash, we'll make sure they're reusable instead of having single-use plastic. So we want to reduce dependency on single-use plastic, want to look at more of those reusable options. Ben was so nice to bring some samples of our barn cup. So anyone that purchases a soda at Barn Dining will get this souvenir barn logo. One of the cool things about it is this is the first pass, and as we kind of get into the business, we might be changing these up here and there to make them collectibles. But if you purchase a soda or a drink in our traditional barn area, you can use that cup, take it home, it's dishwasher friendly, and bring it back. And if you bring it back, you'll get a beverage at a discounted rate. Another thing that we're doing is in our back of house and our kitchen operations, we've purchased 2 food dehydrators. And what those are, it's our effort to reduce food waste. So when we prep food, you have your rinds and things like that when you're prepping the food. Instead of just throwing them into the trash, we have these food dehydrators that we're going to collect the food waste, put them in the food dehydrator, They're in the food dehydrator from 12 to 18 hours. Basically, it heats it up and shrinks it. And then we can take that and partner with Ag Ops and use it for mulch, fertilizers, things like that. So we're really into trying to reduce environmental impact, reduce single-use plastics, and really get on the reusable train and push forward our initiative.
And we're counting on all our guests, so it's a two-way street. So we're providing you that free souvenir cup or that reusable souvenir cup, but when you take that home or to your apartment or your residence hall, your office, we need you to display that proudly on the desk or wherever it may be so everybody else can see it.
I think I'll put mine on my desk, to be honest, so the people around the office see it and,
Yep.
Yeah. But the barn is also, you mentioned it, barn dining. What are going to be some of the food options available?
So the barn itself has 4 different platforms. So we really look to improve our food variety from the old barn, and we were able to increase our variety about 400%. So the 4 platforms are, we have a traditional deli station, which they'll have 6 to 8 sandwiches available a day. We also have a salad station that'll have about 6-7 salads available a day. A traditional, what we call hot table, so you'll have 2 protein options and a plant-based option available with 1 or 2 sides. And then our grill, which will have our burgers, our chicken sandwiches. That'll also be our breakfast location. We'll have breakfast available from 7:30 to 10:30 daily. And then later in the day, we're having a different menu, which we're calling Barn Bites, which is more kind of an appetizer menu for later in the day for those that don't want a full meal or they just want a quick bite.
I'd like to follow up on that if I can. I'm curious as to where you're sourcing the food from. Is it local or is it more, are you kind of sourcing it from far and wide?
Our goal is to stay within 500 miles of around UCR. So we partner with our vendors to try to stay as local as we can. Menu variety, menu cost, all those levers that we kind of have when we're kind of building a menu, but trying to stay local is key to us, as well as having options for anyone on the campus. So we're going to have vegan options, we're going to have vegetarian options, we're going to have halal options at the barn. We really want to appeal to the entire campus and the community.
And another thing that we mentioned over email is the barn is looking to honor its past. How are you guys going to go about doing that?
We're going to do it through a lot of photography on the walls in the barn, first of all. So done a lot of research when it comes to what is the history of the barn. It's been pretty fascinating. So for those that don't know, the barn, its history goes actually back to, well, it says here on the cups, established 1917. So 1917, it wasn't quite a restaurant yet. It was actually a working barn and stable. So there were horse stables in there, and it continued that way from 1917 all the way up to about 1955. At which time they did add a dining component. So it was more of a diner at first, sort of almost like a coffee shop in a way. And we actually have an article from the Highlander newspaper from that year. Back then it was called The Cub, which is very interesting. And basically we had the headline from September of that year saying the barn is set to open. So that's pretty cool. So we'll be utilizing that. We have some old concert photos that will be lining the hallways as well. So, and that way we will be honoring the history of the barn in a very interesting way. And, not to worry anybody, although all our infrastructure is reinforced and very safe, but there was a fire at the barn many years ago. And so there was a little bit of a charred woods in the rafters that still remain from that. So it's kind of an interesting part of history that still remains part of the barn. So we kept in things like that because we want to honor the history, but we're also very excited about the future as well.
Just to add, just talking to different faculty and staff in and around campus, there's a growing excitement about the barn, but there's a lot of faculty and staff that were there with the old barn and the old concerts, and every time I talked to somebody or they said, "Oh, you're the director of the barn," they lit up because of the history there, and pretty much it was the same message. I had a blast when we used to do concerts at the barn. It was a great time. I look forward to seeing it, and that's not just faculty and staff. I mean, we've anecdotally heard from around the community. People are asking those of us that work here that know people around the community here, "Hey, when's the barn open? I heard the barn's reopening. I'm excited to see it." So we definitely want not only to deliver on the expectations, but to exceed the expectations and really make it a fun environment for students, faculty, and staff and the community around Riverside to come hang out.
What are you all planning for concerts and stuff? Like, what is that looking like?
So we just contracted a third-party talent buyer. His name is Manu Mirande, and he has a lot of experience with contracting talent in and around Riverside. So he's done events for Romano's and a couple other places in and around Riverside. funny story is he used to come to the barn and see concerts there and met his wife there. So there's a personal connection that if you talk to him, you'll just see the excitement. We walked him last week through the barn just to show him the stage and things like that. And he's really excited. He thinks that he can appeal not just to students, faculty, and staff, but we're going to have a wide variety of music, whether it's paid concerts, whether it's student groups that just want to come hang out at lunch and play on the stage. Our ultimate goal is to have entertainment and talent on that stage 7 days a week.
Kind of talking more about bridging the past with what we're going to have in the future. So the past was the concert stage was inside the barn. It was an indoor venue, so people would be swinging off the rafters from what we heard. So it's now moved outside. It's kind of bigger and better, state-of-the-art technology. It's an outdoor stage, about capacity for 500 people to have a good sight line to the stage. So that's going to be a key difference there. But it's going to be an awesome, improved environment when it comes to concerts. We're really excited about it.
And you guys rebuilt the theater too, or well, you scraped and rebuilt it, right?
Yes, so the barn theater will be available for student groups, classes, old traditional things like the taiko drum group will be playing in there. So that'll definitely be part of our barn complex, as we're calling it.
How did you remodel it, or is there anything new with?
It's bigger, and it's been relocated. And from what we understand from the faculty that are going to oversee the theater, they're very excited.
And then I also read in the article the fact that I believe the complex is broken down into 3 buildings now. Is that the way it always was, or is that something you guys installed for the reopening? It's
kind of gone through different variations. I mean, really before the faculty and staff lounge wasn't as broken out as it is now. Now they're all part of the same complex, but you have barn dining is what we call it, the kind of barn proper restaurant where everybody can go to, and then the faculty and staff lounge will be connected, but it'll have its own separate entrance, and then the barn theater, of course, so it will be separate as well. And really, the concert stage is almost sort of a fourth element in a lot of ways. So it's new and improved, man. It's we're probably anywhere between 3 and 4 times the capacity of what the barn was before, so it's a whole different ballgame.
Did you guys get feedback that made you want to implement that, or was it just something you guys had an idea and or a vision and wanted to do?
I think that the barn itself, it's been a 10-year growth project, as Andy Plumley would say, that the barn has been great. It's been a part of UCR's history. And expanding it and making it more inviting for faculty, staff, students in the community was probably the number one goal. We heard that the concerts that we used to hold there was an exciting venue, a place that people wanted to continue to come back to. So when we looked at designing the stage, as Ben talked about earlier, is we want that buzz to be there, not just for concerts, but we want it to be, hey, this is the place to come hang out, whether it's in between classes, after work, as we grow to the weekends operations. We really think that we have an opportunity here just to hit a home run on overall great food and beverage offerings, fun atmosphere, and then top that with entertainment that hopefully we can have on there day in and day out.
Yeah, and it sounds great. I'm honestly very excited for it because I read the article and there's a bunch of variety in the food, and obviously the fact there's going to be entertainment there. Thank you again for joining us. I know you guys are very busy, so I just want to thank you guys for your time coming out here.
Thank you. We'll see you at the barn.
Yeah, looking forward
definitely.
to seeing you guys.
Thank you both.
Right. Thank you. All right, now we're going to transition and talk about things that were going on campus. There were 2 ASPB events that happened last week, including the Getting to Know Jordan Woods, which I believe happened on Tuesday, and then Rollercade, which happened on Wednesday of last week. We do have the director of special events, Laura, here, who's also the assistant news editor. I wanted to start with the Jordan Woods event because it happened earlier in the week last week. So I guess what was just ASPV's thought process behind bringing Jordan Woods?
So usually when we pick people to come out and do lectures, we have to do a board vote with all staff. So we talk about the person who is getting board voted, and then we do a pros and cons list. And we pretty much just all came to the agreement that Jordan Woods would, despite her controversy in the media, I guess, we felt that she could come on and talk about how she got through that. And she's also a model, very body positive. She's an influencer. So she was going to appeal to that side of campus.
I also wanted to ask how you choose who comes. You kind of talked about it right there. Isn't there, when you guys table, don't you guys also take suggestions from students?
Yes.
How much does that weigh into like who you guys actually bring?
So we have master lists of everyone's suggestions.
Really? That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. So we kind of write down the people who are mentioned the most. Usually it's for like musicians, but we also encourage people to kind of suggest anyone they want to come out to see on campus. And then we kind of see who is mentioned the most amount of times, and that's how we pick some. But also we just try to keep an eye on who's like popular in the media at the time, who would bring out an audience, and then we kind of go through, like I said, just like the pros and cons of what people would like, what people might not like, and then we make our decision based on that.
And you said, we were talking a little bit before this about like whether you have to work every event as a director. How was the turnout for this event?
So the turnout for this event was, I think it's safe to say that it was the most attended lecture we've had this year. We did have another lecture last fall quarter, which was Kenny Beats in that same room. And he filled up about like halfway of Hub 302. And then Jordan Woods was almost full. I would say like a bit more than like 3/4 full. I don't have like any specific numbers, but the crowd seemed to be like very excited. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's something else I wanted to ask you, like just the crowd's reaction to her first walking in. I saw a bunch of like videos on Snapchat and like Instagram stories of like when she walked in. There was like a bunch of flashes and people were going crazy. So I mean, what was
Yeah, I actually wasn't really aware of where she was gonna come out from. Usually they just come out from like the backstage and they get on, but she came out from one of our back doors, so she walked through the entire crowd, which was really cool because people got to see her like up close and personal. This was the first time that anybody had done this also, but she had her YouTube camera crew with her, so they were kind of trying to get those like really cool shots. I don't know when the video is gonna come out on her YouTube channel, but that was really cool because they were just like recording everyone's reactions, walking behind her the whole time, and yeah, everyone was going crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see it. When it was coming up, I was like checking her social media too, Instagram, to see if she was promoting the event, and yeah, she was, which is pretty cool. Whenever they get that YouTube video posted, I'm definitely gonna check it out. I know some students got to meet her, right? Mm-hmm. How was that decided? Like who would get to meet her and stuff?
Usually for meet and greets, I think we do like a maximum of 15 students. So we'll do like the 5 first in line of the day of. We'll just be like checking regularly to see when people start lining up, and then we'll give them their wristband. We also did like a trivia Q&A portion before the lecture started, which was another 5 questions. And that was just, we asked like, what's her astrology sign? Who's her godfather, which is like Will Smith. Everyone knows that. It was
Did you
just
know
like,
that, Evan?
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
Oh, okay.
I would have failed Q&A.
And then we asked like kind of like more difficult things, which is like what modeling school does she go to and things like that. But we did try to tell people to do their research before, just so they could possibly have a chance of meeting her. And then the other 5, I think, were chosen just through social media, I believe. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, but there was a boy in the crowd, can't remember his name, sorry, but he was pretty much like trying to like get her attention the entire lecture, and eventually he was like flirting with her. It was a joke, but she seemed like very enthusiastic of it, and she actually asked to meet him after, so that was pretty cool. And if you get to meet like one of our lecturers or somebody who comes out, we'll usually give them like a signed poster, and they can have a photo with them professionally and then a photo like on their personal phone.
How was he trying to get her attention? Like, what was he doing in the like mass crowd that would get her attention?
I think he just like complimented her, called
He was
her
like
beautiful
yelling
or
it,
something.
or-
Yeah, and
Oh.
then I think he asked like for her number or something, and she just like kind of like shifted her attention to him for a second and was like talking to him. It was pretty funny.
And then were you there to witness any of like the actual meet and greets, like when they met her?
Yeah, so after our events, we kind of have to stick around until everything's cleared out. And it's pretty smooth. Like, we just have people line up, and then they go up to talk to her for a second, take their photo. It's pretty casual. Like, it's not, our rules aren't like too strict. We just have to make sure that like the meet and greet people have like their meet and greet wristband and stuff. But it was cool because she actually brought her mom and her little sister, so they were talking to everyone who they were gonna meet, and they were like also taking photos with them. So they were like also super excited. It's cool.
Were there any like freakouts, like people freaking out right before they met her?
I don't think so. I think there was some people who looked very happy that they were in that line, but they, for the most part, they kept it together when they were meeting her.
All right. Do you have any questions about Jordyn Woods?
I don't. I'm sorry. No, I don't really follow like influencers, so I'm kind of like, cool, she came.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's good that we had a good turnout. Like that's
Yeah,
good.
I'm glad it was a successful event. You know, that people got to come and have a good time.
All right, now I want to talk about Rollercade. So that happened Wednesday of last week. ASPB merged. I don't remember what the name of the arcade event was. Did it have like a name?
Yeah, so last year the roller skating event was called Skate Night, and then arcade is just R.
Oh, okay,
Cade.
R.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
usually we have that one every year.
For sure. So like, what was the thought process in blending them together this year?
We figured that both events were like pretty similar in the sense that like people just come in, have a good time, just like play some games. We thought it would be good to merge them together because it would bring out like a bigger audience. And we figured we could use the bigger space instead of making them two small events. We just wanted to make one big event. Turnout was really cool. I think the aesthetic that we were going for really looked like a typical roller rink arcade, that they have the arcade games on the side and then they have food and the skating rink. So it turned out how we had envisioned it, I would say.
I mean, did you, because like we have an article about it, obviously. I was actually kind of surprised because the writer didn't, like, she brought up a lot of the problems, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice like people being upset or anything, or like what was the like feeling?
I didn't notice that many people being upset. Usually people are upset like when we run out of food or obviously like inevitable, we can't feed the whole planet. But another critique that we got was that not everyone got to skate, but that was like a logistical issue that we were trying to figure out. We just needed it to be efficient and organized so at least some people would get to skate. You know, like we didn't have enough time in the night to like foster to everyone, and we only had a certain amount of skates and like certain amount of sizes, so we really had to like plan it logistically to where the event would run like as smoothly as possible.
So what do you guys do with those critiques? Like, does that factor into events that you plan for next year or for later events? Or do you take those critiques and apply them to other events? Or do they only factor into like the events that are reoccurring?
They definitely do. We do take them into consideration. After every event, we have weekly meetings. So the weekly meeting following whatever event we do like a debrief where we talk about like pros and cons, and then we keep that also like in a big list so we can go back and see what worked and what didn't work. And one thing I noticed when we were programming our events this year was we really made it a like priority to check what worked last year and how we could fix it. And one of the suggestions that we had last year, like that reoccurred over and over, was that we should merge arcade and skate night. So that we did that, and now like since it's a new event, obviously there's going to be something that worked and some things that didn't work, and it's just a matter of like improving it, seeing what worked and what didn't, and then using that to make the event bigger and better next year.
And I know there was a 30-minute time limit on like skating, right? Was that in place last year as well?
Last year it was a little more disorganized, just because it was the first time we had brought the skating rink. So it was actually 20 minutes of skating that we had logistically planned out for 20 minutes. But once people got their skates, they were allowed to go on the rink. So we had 10 minutes for you to get your skates, 20 minutes for you to skate. But if you were the first one to get your roller skates, you'd be able to skate for the entire time. So that's how we worked it out. And we just wanted to like minimize the lines, because last year that was a huge problem. The line was like super long and people were waiting outside instead of coming in just because they wanted to skate. So this time we wanted to kind of encourage people to come in and do all the other stuff and then also skate if they could.
Do you have any more questions about Rollercade? If not, you know, there's other ASPB events coming up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask like what other events you guys have coming up.
So for winter quarter, I think our biggest event coming up is Winter Solstice. We haven't that's like our biggest event of the winter. We haven't released many details. It's going to be on February 21st. It's our like annual like R&B concert, which is coming up. And then we are also planning to have a new event next month called Nostalgia Night, which is going to be like a recap of the 2000s because it's like 2020 decade event, and it's just going to be like a fun like DIY. We'll probably have some arcade games. I think we'll be playing like old school music videos. Like, it's just going to be a very nostalgic evening.
Let's get some SpongeBob.
SpongeBob memes.
Yeah.
I'll take your suggestion. I'll put it in our list.
For winter solstice, is it still going to be at the SRC? Or is that TBA or TBD?
I'm it's still gonna be in the SRC, and I think like the lineup process is gonna be pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, so we'll be giving out just because winter solstice, we do have like a limit of people we can let into the gym.
Yeah.
So we encourage people to get there early so they're not like they don't have to be shut out at the end. Yeah, but we'll just be like start giving out wristbands before.
Do you guys have a hard time yet? Like a hard when it's going to start?
No, I'm not exactly sure.
Did you guys put any thought into like moving the venue? Just because I know last year, a lot of people were, I don't know if they were upset, but they were just like complaining like, oh yeah, we were all like cramped into like the gym and like it was way too close to other people.
Yeah, the problem with our concert in the winter is that usually we have our big concerts outside and like around like Hub Lawn, but the thing with like winter solstice, you can't tell if it's gonna rain or not.
Yeah.
And if it rains during an event, like we have to cancel it. Like we can't have people standing outside in the rain. So having winter solstice in the gym is like the safest option for us, I'd say.
Yeah, because I remember a couple times when I think like 2 years in a row it rained hard.
Yeah.
Like it just poured. So I remember my first year it totally poured. But yeah, I mean, are there rooms that are bigger than the gym, or is that the biggest that's on campus?
I think that's our biggest indoor
Yeah.
concert venue. Because I don't know exactly where it was, but they used to have winter solstice off campus somewhere, but we stopped doing that just because people would have to gather at UCR and then take buses to the venue.
They would?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know exactly. It reminds me of like high school prom.
Yeah.
But I think it's the best thing that they kept it at the gym.
All right. Cool. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking to us. I know this was your first time. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thanks to all the listeners who tuned in. Catch you all next week.